Jake Collins pressed his face against the observation window of the New Horizon and watched the alien ship grow larger on the screen. The vessel looked nothing like human ships. Where human ships were built with straight lines and sharp angles, this one curved and flowed like water frozen in space. Its surface shimmered with colors that changed as it moved. "First contact protocol is now in effect," Captain Lisa Morgan announced over the ship's communication system. Her voice was calm, but Jake could hear the excitement underneath. They had been traveling through space for 3 years, looking for signs of intelligent life. Now they had found it. Jake stepped back from the window and checked his equipment one more time. As the ship's lead xenobiologist, he would be one of the first humans to meet an alien species. His hands shook slightly as he adjusted his recording device. Everything they learned today would change human understanding of the universe forever. Dr. Kira Voss joined him at the window. She was younger than Jake, only 29, but her knowledge of alien biology theories was better than anyone else on the ship. Her dark hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her green eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Can you believe this is really happening?" she whispered. Jake nodded. "I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and find out this is all a dream." The alien ship moved closer until it was only a few hundred meters away. Both ships extended docking arms that connected with surprising smoothness. Whoever these aliens were, they understood space travel very well. Captain Morgan's voice came through the speakers again. "All diplomatic team members report to docking. Bay 3, remember we represent all of humanity today. Let's make a good impression." Jake and Kira walked through the ship's corridors toward the docking bay. Other crew members lined the hallways, watching them go. Everyone wanted to see history being made, but only a few people were allowed to make first contact. The docking bay doors opened with a soft hiss. The alien ship's entrance was larger than expected, designed for beings taller than humans. The first alien to step through the doorway confirmed this. It stood nearly 7 feet tall, with green-scaled skin that caught the light like polished stone. Its head was longer than a human head, with large golden eyes that seemed to see everything at once. It wore a flowing robe made of material that seemed to shift colors. "Greetings," the alien said in perfect English. Its voice was deep and musical. "I am Zektar, lead researcher of the Vrex Confederation science vessel Cosmic Wind. We have been monitoring your communications and learned your language." Captain Morgan stepped forward. She had changed into her best uniform for the occasion. "Welcome aboard the New Horizon. I am Captain Lisa Morgan, representing Earth and humanity. We are honored to meet you." Zektar's eyes moved across the human delegation. When his gaze reached Jake, it paused for a moment. Jake felt like the alien was studying him like a specimen under a microscope. "Your species is much smaller than we expected," Zektar said. "Our calculations suggested you would be larger based on your technology and space travel capabilities." "We may be small, but we're curious," Captain Morgan replied with a smile. "We've traveled far from our home world to explore and learn." "Excellent. Curiosity is a trait highly valued by the Vrex. We too are explorers and researchers." Zektar gestured to 2 other aliens who had entered behind him. "These are my colleagues, Dr. Hixner and Commander Vexahun." The introductions continued for several minutes. Jake was impressed by how polite and formal the aliens were. They seemed genuinely interested in learning about humanity, asking questions about Earth's environment, human biology, and their technology. After an hour of discussion, Zektar made an unexpected offer. "We are currently conducting research on a nearby planet called Zarian 7. It is a world rich with dangerous fauna that has fascinated scientists throughout the galaxy. Would your team be interested in joining our expedition?" Captain Morgan looked surprised. "That's very generous, but we wouldn't want to interfere with your research. On the contrary, we believe different perspectives enhance scientific understanding. Your species might observe things we would miss." Zektar paused, and Jake thought he saw something like amusement in the alien's golden eyes. "Besides, it would be interesting to see how humans react to truly dangerous creatures." Dr. Voss stepped forward. "What kind of dangerous creatures?" Dr. Hicksner, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Zarian 7 is home to many predator species, but the most feared is the shadow maw. It is the apex predator of that world and perhaps the most dangerous creature known to galactic civilization. How dangerous? Jake asked. No sentient being has ever survived a direct encounter with a shadow maw, Commander Vexahun said. His voice was harder than the other aliens, more military. They are massive creatures, larger than your human vehicles. Their claws can cut through our strongest armor. Their roar can shatter stone. Their hide deflects most energy weapons. Then how do you study them? Captain Morgan asked. From a great distance, using advanced scanning technology and protective energy shields, Zektar explained. Even then, we must be extremely careful. The Shadow Maw has destroyed research stations and killed entire expedition teams. Jake felt a chill run down his spine, but also a strange excitement. As a former Marine, he had faced dangerous situations before. As a scientist, he was curious about these creatures that terrified an advanced alien civilization. I'd like to volunteer for the expedition, Jake said. The aliens looked at each other with what Jake could only describe as surprise. Dr. Hicksner made a sound that might have been laughter. You cannot be serious, Commander Vexahun said. Humans appear to be soft creatures with no natural weapons. You have no claws, no fangs, no armored skin. Your bodies look fragile compared to most galactic species. Appearances can be misleading, Jake replied calmly. Zektar studied Jake with renewed interest. You were a soldier before becoming a scientist, were you not? I can see it in the way you carry yourself. Marine Corps, yes, sir. 8 years before I went back to school for biology. Fascinating. Your species trains for combat even though you lack natural weapons, Zektar turned to Captain Morgan. We would be honored to have one of your researchers join our expedition. The experience would be valuable for both our species. Captain Morgan looked worried. Jake, are you sure about this? We don't know anything about this planet or these creatures. That's exactly why we need to go, Captain. This is what we came out here for, to learn and explore. Jake turned to Zektar. What kind of safety measures do you use? We maintain a safe distance at all times, never less than 5 kilometers from any shadow maw. We use energy shields and are prepared to evacuate immediately if threatened. Our ship has weapons capable of destroying the creatures if absolutely necessary, though we prefer not to kill specimens we are studying. The discussion continued for another hour. Finally, Captain Morgan agreed to let Jake join the expedition, but only with a full security escort and constant communication with the New Horizon. 3 days later, Jake found himself aboard the Vrex research ship, looking down at Zarian 7 through the alien vessel's viewing port. The planet was beautiful in a dangerous way. Dense jungles covered most of the surface, broken by towering crystal formations that sparkled in the light of the system's twin suns. Your first alien world, Dr. Kiravos said, joining him at the viewport. Captain Morgan had agreed to let her come as well, along with Security Chief Pete Gordon and Medic Dr. Sam Rodriguez. It's incredible, Jake whispered. The planet seemed to glow with its own inner light. Bioluminescent plants created patterns of blue and green that moved like slow lightning through the jungle. Canopy.zek single quote star approached them. We will land in 2 hours. I must warn you again, humans are not built for the dangers of this world. Please stay close to the Vrex team members at all times. Jake nodded, but inside he felt the familiar calm that came before dangerous missions. He had faced insurgents in urban warfare, survived harsh training exercises, and tracked dangerous animals in Earth's wilderness. Whatever was waiting on Zarian 7, he would face it with the same determination that had kept him alive through 8 years of military service. As the ship began its descent toward the alien jungle, Jake couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change, not just for him, but for how the galaxy viewed humanity. The landing shuttle touched down on Zarian 7 with barely a sound. Jake pressed his face to the small window and watched the alien jungle sway in the wind. The trees were unlike anything on Earth. They rose hundreds of feet into the air, their trunks made of what looked like living crystal. Light passed through them, creating rainbow patterns on the jungle floor. "Stay close to the group," Pete Gordon warned as they prepared to exit the shuttle. The security chief had insisted on bringing extra weapons, though the Vrex had told him human firearms would be useless against the planet's larger predators. Commander Vexuhun activated his energy shield, a shimmering barrier that surrounded his body like a soap bubble. "The shield will protect against most attacks, but not from a shadow maw. If we encounter one, we retreat immediately." Jake stepped out of the shuttle and immediately felt the difference in the air. It was thicker than Earth's atmosphere, almost humid, and it carried strange scents he couldn't identify. Some smelled like flowers, others like metal or electricity. Dr. Kira Voss pulled out her scanner and began taking readings. "The electromagnetic field here is incredible." "It's coming from those crystal trees?" Zektar nodded. "The crystals store and conduct energy from the planet's core. They power much of the ecosystem, but they also interfere with our equipment sometimes." The research team began setting up their base camp in a clearing surrounded by smaller crystal formations. The Vrex worked with practiced efficiency, assembling scanning equipment and communication devices. Jake watched how they moved, always staying alert, always watching the jungle around them. "The shadow maws are most active during the planet's night cycle," Dr. Hicksner explained as he calibrated a large scanner. "During the day, they usually rest in deep caves or under the crystal formations, but they can be awakened if disturbed." Dr. Sam Rodriguez unpacked his medical supplies. "What exactly makes these creatures so dangerous?" "Besides their size, they are perfect predators," Zektar said. "They have incredible strength, speed, and intelligence. Their senses are so sharp they can detect the heartbeat of prey from several kilometers away. They can see heat signatures, smell fear, and their hearing can pick up the slightest sound." "How do they hunt?" Jake asked. "They stalk their prey for hours, sometimes days, learning their patterns and weaknesses. When they finally attack, it is swift and brutal. Most victims never see the shadow maw coming." Jake felt a chill despite the warm air. These creatures sounded like the ultimate predator, combining the worst traits of every dangerous animal he had ever encountered. The first day passed without incident. The team collected samples of plants and smaller creatures, while the Vrex scanners searched for signs of shadow maw activity. Jake was impressed by the alien technology, but he also noticed things the scanners missed. "There," he said, pointing to a set of marks on a crystal tree. "Something large scratched these trunk recently." Zektar examined the marks with his scanner. "Curious. Our equipment detected no large predator activity in this area." Jake knelt beside the tree and studied the scratches more carefully. His military training had taught him to read animal signs, and these looked fresh. "Whatever made these marks was here within the last day or two?" "How can you tell?" Dr. Voss asked. "See how the crystal is still sharp at the edges of the scratches? If they were old, weathering would have smoothed them out. Also, there's no plant growth over them yet." Commander Vexahun looked skeptical. "Our scanners are far more accurate than visual observation." "Maybe," Jake said, "but sometimes the old ways work better." On the second day, Jake found tracks near a small stream. They were huge, each footprint larger than his entire body. The tracks were partially filled with water, but Jake could still make out the shape of massive claws. "A shadow maw was here," he told the group, "recently." The Vrex scanners showed nothing, but Jake was certain. He had tracked everything from deer to insurgents during his military service. These signs were clear to him, even if the alien technology couldn't detect them. "We should move the camp," he suggested. "Based on what evidence?" Commander Vexahun demanded. "Our equipment shows no danger." "Based on these tracks and the fact that predators usually return to water sources." Zektar looked thoughtful. "Your species relies heavily on visual tracking, doesn't it? This is fascinating. Our technology has made us forget such basic skills." They decided to stay, but doubled the watch schedule. Jake volunteered for the night shift, along with Pete Gordon and one of the Vrex soldiers. The third day started normally. Jake and Dr. Voss went to collect plant samples from a clearing about half a kilometer from the main camp. They carried communication devices that would alert the team if they encountered any danger. The clearing was beautiful in a deadly way. Bioluminescent flowers created patterns of light that pulsed like slow heartbeats. The crystal trees hummed with energy, creating a sound almost like music. Jake was examining a plant with leaves that changed color when he touched them. Dr. Voss was taking samples from a cluster of glowing mushrooms. The work was peaceful, almost relaxing. That's when their communication devices started making strange noises instead of clear signals. "Hello, base camp, can you hear us?" Dr. Voss spoke into her device, but only static came back. Jake tried his device with the same result. "The crystal formations must be interfering with the signal. Should we head back?" Jake looked around the clearing. They had been working for 2 hours and had collected valuable samples. "Let's finish up here and then return to camp. We're not that far away." That decision almost cost them their lives. Dr. Voss was sealing her sample containers when she froze. "Jake," she whispered, "look." He turned to see what had caught her attention and felt his blood turn to ice. At the far end of the clearing, bones were scattered across the ground. Lots of bones. The remains of many different creatures, some that looked like they might have been intelligent species. "A feeding ground," Jake said quietly. The bones were old, bleached white by the planet's twin suns, but some looked more recent. Jake could see scrape marks where something had gnawed the meat from the bones. "We need to leave, now." Jake helped Dr. Voss pack her equipment. That's when they heard it. A sound like distant thunder, but regular, rhythmic footsteps. Something very large was moving through the jungle toward their clearing. Dr. Voss grabbed Jake's arm. "What do we do?" Jake listened carefully. The footsteps were getting closer, and he could hear other sounds now. The crack of branches breaking, the scrape of claws on crystal bark. Whatever was coming was massive, and it wasn't trying to be quiet. "Stay calm," Jake whispered. "Predators can sense fear." The footsteps stopped. The jungle became completely silent, as if every creature was holding its breath. Even the crystal trees seemed to hum more quietly. Then it appeared. The Shadow Maw stepped into the clearing like a nightmare made real. It was larger than Jake had imagined, easily the size of a small building. Its body was covered in black scales that seemed to absorb light, making it hard to see clearly. 6 powerful legs ended in claws as long as swords. Its head was massive, with jaws that could swallow a human whole. But the most terrifying thing about the creature was its eyes. They glowed with an intelligence that was almost human-like. This wasn't just a dumb animal. It was a thinking, planning predator. The Shadow Maw looked at the 2 humans with curiosity rather than immediate aggression. Its head tilted to one side, studying them like a cat studying a mouse. Dr. Voss made a small sound of terror and took a step backward. The creature's eyes immediately focused on her movement. "Don't run," Jake said quietly. "Not yet." The Shadow Maw opened its mouth slightly, revealing teeth like black daggers. A low rumbling sound came from its throat. Not quite a growl, not quite a purr. Jake realized it was tasting their scent, learning about them. For a moment that felt like forever. The 3 beings stood perfectly still. The massive predator, the terrified scientist, and the former Marine who was calculating their chances of survival. Those chances didn't look good. The Shadow Maw's bioluminescent patterns began to glow brighter, creating hypnotic swirls of blue and green light across its scales. Jake had read about this in the Vrex files. The creature was preparing to hunt. "When I say run," Jake whispered to Dr. Voss, "head for the crystal trees. Climb as high as you can." "What about you? I'll buy you time." The Shadow Maw took a step forward, its claws digging deep grooves in the ground. Then another step. It was in no hurry. It knew its prey couldn't escape. Dr. Voss couldn't take it anymore. She turned and ran toward the jungle. The Shadow Maw's head snapped toward her movement, and it let out a roar that shook the crystal trees. The sound was so loud that Jake felt it in his bones. Then the creature charged, moving faster than anything that large had any right to move. But instead of running, Jake Collins did something that no intelligent being in the galaxy had ever done when faced with a Shadow Maw. he stood his ground. The apex predator of Zarian 7 was about to learn that humans had their own ideas about what was possible. The Shadow Maw charged at Jake like a mountain falling from the sky. Each step made the ground shake. Its claws threw dirt and rocks high into the air. The creature's roar was so loud that the crystal trees around the clearing started to crack. Jake didn't run. He couldn't outrun something that fast anyway. Instead, he did what his marine training had taught him to do. He watched. He studied. He looked for weaknesses. The creature was massive, but that also meant it was heavy. Heavy things had momentum. Momentum could be used against an opponent if you knew how. When the Shadow Maw was 20 feet away, Jake dove to his right. The creature tried to change direction, but its own weight worked against it. It slid past him, its claws missing him by inches. Jake rolled to his feet and found himself next to one of the creature's massive legs. Without thinking, he grabbed onto the leg and held tight. The Shadow Maw tried to shake him off, but Jake had trained for this kind of situation. Not with alien monsters, but with human opponents who were bigger and stronger than him. The key was to stay close. A big opponent couldn't use their full strength if you were too close for them to get leverage. The Shadow Maw spun around, trying to reach Jake with its other claws. But Jake moved with it, staying on the blind side of the leg he was holding. The creature's own body protected him from its other limbs. Jake studied the leg he was gripping. The scales were harder than any armor he had ever seen, but between the scales were gaps. Small spaces where a softer skin showed through. That was where pressure points would be. He pressed his thumb into one of the gaps, applying pressure the way he had learned in combat training. The Shadow Maw's leg jerked, and the creature made a sound of surprise. "You can feel pain," Jake said out loud. "Good, that means you can learn." The creature tried a different approach. It dropped to the ground and tried to roll over, attempting to crush Jake with its weight. But Jake had expected this. He let go of the leg and rolled away just as the massive body hit the ground where he had been standing. The Shadow Maw got back to its feet and turned to face Jake again. This time it moved more slowly, more carefully. Jake could see intelligence in its glowing eyes. The creature was learning that this small prey was different from anything it had faced before. Jake circled to his left, staying light on his feet. The creature turned to follow him, but Jake noticed something important. When the Shadow Maw turned its head to the left, it moved slightly slower than when it turned right. A small weakness, but every weakness could be exploited. The creature lunged again, but this time Jake was ready. He stepped to the Shadow Maw's left side, the slower side, and grabbed onto the scales near its neck. The creature tried to shake him off, but Jake used a technique he had learned in wrestling. He locked his legs around the creature's neck and held on with his arms. The Shadow Maw thrashed wildly, slamming its body against the crystal trees. The impacts would have killed a normal human, but Jake had learned to absorb punishment. He kept his muscles loose and rode out the impacts like a surfer riding a wave dive as he held on. Jake studied the creature's neck more carefully, the bioluminescent patterns were brighter here, pulsing with the creature's heartbeat. The patterns formed lines that led to a spot behind the creature's skull. Jake had seen similar patterns on Earth animals. Nerve clusters often showed as bright spots on animals that had bioluminescence. The creature slammed against another tree, and this time Jake felt his grip slipping. He made a decision. Instead of trying to hold on, he used the impact to launch himself toward the creature's head. Jake landed on the Shadow Maw's skull, just behind its eyes. The creature went wild, shaking its head like a dog trying to get rid of fleas. But Jake had dealt with bucking horses during survival training. He knew how to stay on a moving target. The spot where the bioluminescent patterns met was right under his hands. Jake could feel warmth coming from it and a slight vibration that felt like electrical current. This was definitely a nerve cluster. Jake had learned pressure point techniques from multiple sources. Military combat training, martial arts, even veterinary medicine when he had worked with large animals. The principle was always the same. Find the nerve, apply pressure, control the opponent. He pressed both thumbs into the spot where the patterns converged and applied steady pressure. The Shadow Maw's thrashing immediately became less coordinated. The creature stumbled, shaking its head as if trying to clear its vision. "That's it," Jake said. "Now you're starting to understand." But the creature wasn't finished. It had one more trick. The Shadow Maw opened its mouth and let out a roar so loud that Jake felt his ears start bleeding. The sound was a weapon itself, designed to stun prey. Jake's vision blurred and his grip loosened. He almost fell from the creature's head. But his marine training had included exposure to loud explosions and gunfire. He knew how to function when his senses were damaged. Instead of letting go, Jake adjusted his grip and applied more pressure to the nerve cluster. The Shadow Maw's roar cut off abruptly, and the creature stumbled again. Jake realized something important. The creature had never faced an opponent who fought back effectively. Every other species had either run away or been killed quickly. The Shadow Maw didn't know how to handle a prolonged fight, but Jake did. He had been trained for endurance. Humans were built for persistence hunting, chasing prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. Jake could outlast this creature if he was smart about it. The Shadow Maw tried rolling again, but Jake anticipated the move. He shifted his weight and stayed on top as the creature rolled. When it came back up, Jake was still there, still applying pressure to the nerve cluster. The creature's movements were getting slower, less coordinated. The nerve pressure was affecting its motor control. Jake increased the pressure slightly and felt the creature's legs wobble. "Easy," Jake said in the same tone he used to calm frightened animals. "Easy now." The Shadow Maw tried to reach Jake with its claws, but its movements were too slow now. Jake easily avoided the clumsy swipes. Minutes passed. The creature kept trying to dislodge Jake, but each attempt was weaker than the last. The nerve pressure was taking its toll. Jake's arms ached from holding on, and his back hurt from the impacts against the trees, but he held on, his military. Instructors had always said that the most important weapon a soldier carried was his mind. Strength and speed were useful, but intelligence and determination won battles. Jake was proving that now. The Shadow Maw's legs gave out, and the creature sank to the ground. It was still conscious, still breathing, but it couldn't move properly anymore. Jake had found the off switch for the galaxy's most feared predator. Jake maintained the pressure for a few more minutes, making sure the creature was completely subdued. When he was certain it wasn't going to get back up, he carefully climbed down from its head. The Shadow Maw lay on its side, breathing slowly. Its eyes were still alert, still intelligent, but its body wouldn't obey its commands. Jake had essentially performed a sleeper hold on a creature the size of a building. Jake sat down on a nearby rock, breathing hard. His whole body ached, and he could taste blood in his mouth from the creature's sonic roar. But he was alive, and the most dangerous predator in the galaxy was lying helpless a few feet away. "Well," he said to the unconscious creature, "that was interesting." In the distance, he could hear voices calling his name. The rescue team had finally arrived. Soon they would find him sitting calmly next to the unconscious Shadow Maw, and everything would change. No one in the galaxy would ever look at humans the same way again. Dr. Voss emerged from the crystal trees where she had been hiding. Her eyes were wide with disbelief as she stared at Jake and the motionless Shadow Maw. "How?" she whispered. Jake stood up slowly, every muscle in his body protesting. "Basic grappling techniques," he said simply. "Same principles work on any opponent, no matter how big they are." The sound of aircraft engines grew louder. The Vrex rescue team was almost there. Jake looked at the Shadow Maw one more time. The creature's eyes met his, and for a moment Jake thought he saw something like respect in them. "Nothing personal," Jake said to the creature, "just business." When the rescue team landed, they found Jake sitting peacefully beside the unconscious apex predator, looking like he had just finished a pleasant walk in the woods. The galaxy was about to discover that humans were far more dangerous than anyone had imagined. The Vrex rescue ship landed in the clearing with emergency lights flashing. Commander Vexahun was the first one out, followed by Zektar and a team of armed soldiers. They expected to find either human remains or no trace of Jake and Dr. Voss at all. Instead, they found Jake sitting on a rock, calmly drinking water from his canteen. Next to him lay the unconscious Shadow Maw, Breathing slowly but completely motionless, Commander Vexahun stopped, so suddenly that the soldiers behind him almost crashed into him. His weapon was ready to fire, but there was nothing to shoot at. The scene in front of him made no sense. "Impossible," he whispered. Zektar pulled out his scanner and pointed it at the Shadow Maw. The device beeped and showed readings that made the alien scientist's golden eyes grow wide. The creature is alive but completely unconscious. Its nervous system shows signs of controlled pressure application. What human weapon did this? "Commander," Vexahen demanded, looking around the clearing for some kind of advanced technology. Jake stood up slowly, wincing as his sore muscles protested. "No weapons. Just basic hand-to-hand combat techniques." The Vrex soldiers looked at each other in confusion. Dr. Hicksner, who had arrived with the rescue team, approached Jake carefully. "You are saying you defeated a Shadow Maw with your bare hands?" "That's right." "Show me your hands," Dr. Hicksner said. Jake held out his hands. They were scratched and bruised, but otherwise normal human hands. No claws, no energy weapons, no protective armor. "This is not possible," Commander Vexahun said firmly. "Our greatest warriors, armed with the most advanced weapons, cannot defeat a Shadow Maw in direct combat." Dr. Voss climbed down from the crystal tree where she had been hiding. "I saw the whole thing," she said. Jake grabbed onto the creature and applied pressure to a nerve cluster behind its head. The Shadow Maw couldn't fight back effectively. Zektar's scanner beeped again. "I am detecting the emergency recording device that Dr. Voss was carrying. It should have captured video of the encounter." They gathered around a portable screen as Zektar played back the recording. The video showed everything. Jake standing his ground as the Shadow Maw charged, dodging the creature's attacks, climbing onto its neck, and applying pressure until the massive predator collapsed. The Vrex watched in complete silence. When the video ended, nobody spoke for several minutes. Finally, Zektar said, "I need to send this recording to the High Council immediately. They will not believe it otherwise." Within hours, the video was spreading through Vrex communication networks. Then it reached other alien species. Soon, every advanced civilization in the galaxy was watching footage of a small human defeating the most feared predator known to galactic science. The reaction was immediate and intense. High Scholar Morthic arrived at Zarian 7 3 days later. With the largest research fleet the Vrex had ever assembled. Ships from a dozen different species followed. Everyone wanted to study the human who had done the impossible. Jake found himself surrounded by alien scientists who poked him with instruments, scanned him with devices, and asked him hundreds of questions. He answered them patiently, but the aliens seemed unable to understand his explanations. "Pressure points are common knowledge on Earth," Jake told a group of researchers. "Any martial arts student learns the basic techniques. But how do you locate these pressure points on a creature you have never seen before?" asked Dr. Emma Blake, a human anthropologist who had arrived with the research fleet. "You look for the patterns. Nerve clusters usually appear as warm spots, areas where blood vessels converge or places where the creature seems more sensitive. The bioluminescent patterns on the Shadow Maw made it easy to see where the nerves were concentrated." High Scholar Morthak, an elderly Vrex with deep blue scales, studied Jake like he was a fascinating puzzle. "Your species evolved these fighting abilities." "Not exactly. We evolved the physical traits that make these techniques possible. The techniques themselves were developed over thousands of years of human warfare and hunting." "Explain these physical traits," Morthak requested. Jake stood up and demonstrated. "Humans have what we call precision grip. We can apply exact amounts of pressure with our fingers and thumbs. We also have excellent endurance. We can maintain physical effort for hours without stopping." He showed them how human joints worked, how human muscles could absorb impact, and how human balance allowed for quick direction changes. The aliens took careful notes on everything. "But you are so small," complained a researcher from the Kelton Empire. "How can size not matter in combat?" "Size matters, but technique matters more," Jake explained. "A larger opponent has more strength but also more momentum. If you understand leverage and pressure points, you can use their size against them. Dr. Blake helped translate some of Jake's explanations into scientific terms the aliens could understand. Better, she had spent years studying human evolution and could explain why humans developed certain abilities. Humans evolved as persistence hunters, she told the assembled researchers. They would chase prey animals for hours or even days until the prey collapsed from exhaustion. This required extreme endurance and the ability to remain calm under stress. And the pressure point techniques? Asked a scientist from the Arcturus. Republic, humans learned to hunt animals much larger than themselves. They had to find ways to quickly disable dangerous prey. Pressure points were one solution. Ambassador Quintal arrived on the 5th day with representatives from the Galactic Council. The ambassador was from the Meridian Collective, a species that looked like walking crystals. Her voice sounded like wind chimes when she spoke. The Council has reviewed the evidence, she announced. We require a demonstration to verify these claims. Jake looked tired. He had been answering questions and submitting to tests for days. What kind of demonstration? We have brought a contained specimen, a young shadow maw, sedated and restrained. We want to see if you can repeat your performance under controlled conditions. Jake thought about it for a moment. Will the creature be harmed? No, we simply want to observe your techniques. The demonstration took place in a secure containment field. The young shadow maw was about half the size of the adult Jake had fought, but still larger than any Earth predator. It was conscious but restrained by energy fields. Jake approached the creature slowly, talking to it in calm tones. The shadow maw watched him with intelligent eyes, remembering perhaps the fate of its elder. I'm not going to hurt you, Jake said. Softly, just going to show these people something. He moved around the creature, pointing out the nerve clusters, the pressure points, and the areas where leverage could be applied. He demonstrated holds and grips without actually applying pressure. See. Here, he said, indicating a spot behind the creature's skull. This is where the major nerve pathways converge. Steady pressure here would disrupt motor control without causing permanent damage. The assembled aliens watched in fascination. They could see exactly how Jake had defeated the adult shadow maw. Your species has been underestimated, Ambassador, Quintal said. The Galactic Council formally apologizes for our initial assessment of human capabilities. We didn't come out here to prove how tough we are, Jake replied. We came to learn and make friends. High Scholar Morthek stepped forward. The Vrex Confederation would like to offer humanity full membership in our research alliance. Your unique abilities would be valuable for studying dangerous fauna throughout the galaxy. Other species began making similar offers. The Kelton Empire wanted human advisors for their military. The Arcturus Republic offered to share their medical technology in exchange for human combat techniques. Jake held up his hands. I'm just one person. You'd need to talk to Earth's government about any formal agreements. But you will consider working with us? Zektar asked. There are many worlds with dangerous creatures that our standard methods cannot handle effectively. Jake looked around at the assembled aliens. A few weeks ago, they had seen humans as weak and primitive. Now they were treating him like the galaxy's greatest warrior. I'll consider it, he said, but I have one condition. What condition? Ambassador, Quintal asked. We do this as partners, not as conquerors. Humans don't want to dominate the galaxy. We want to explore it and learn from it, together. The aliens looked at each other and then back at Jake. Here was a member of a species that had just proven itself to be potentially the most dangerous predator in the galaxy, and he was asking for cooperation instead of demanding tribute. Agreed, Ambassador Quintal said. The Galactic Council formally invites humanity to join our Federation as equal partners. Jake smiled and extended his hand for a handshake. Ambassador Quintal looked confused until Dr. Blake explained the human gesture. Soon Jake was shaking hands, claws, tentacles, and other appendages with representatives from dozens of worlds. As the celebrations continued, Jake looked back at the young shadow maw in its containment field. The creature was watching him with What looked like curiosity rather than fear, maybe Jake thought the galaxy was ready for a new kind of partnership. One based on understanding rather than fear. 6 months after the Shadow Maw incident, Jake stood in front of the largest gathering of alien species in galactic history. The Great Assembly Hall on the neutral world of Harmony Station could hold representatives from over 200 different civilizations. Today, every seat was filled. Jake wore a simple Earth uniform, not the fancy robes or armor that other species preferred for formal occasions. Captain Morgan had insisted that he represent humanity exactly as he was, a normal human, being with extraordinary determination. Many of you have seen the recording of my encounter with the Shadow Maw. Jake began, his voice carried to every corner of the hall by translation devices. Many of you have asked how such a thing was possible. Today I want to explain not just how I did it, but why humans are able to do things that seem impossible to other species. The hall was completely silent. Representatives who had been enemies for centuries sat side by side, united by their curiosity about the small species that had changed everything. Jake activated a holographic display that showed images of Earth. My planet is different from most worlds where intelligent life developed. Earth is a dangerous place. We evolved alongside predators that were faster, stronger, and more heavily armed than we were. The display showed images of Earth's great predators, lions, bears, sharks, and prehistoric creatures that had once hunted early humans. We survived not because we were the strongest, but because we were the most persistent. While other animals gave up after a short chase, humans kept going. We could run for hours, tracking wounded prey until it collapsed from exhaustion. A representative from the Thorian hegemony raised a claw. But endurance alone cannot explain your victory over the Shadow Maw. You're right, Jake agreed. Endurance was just one part of our evolution. We also developed something else, the ability to think clearly under extreme stress. The holographic display changed to show human brain scans. Dr. Blake had helped Jake prepare this presentation, making sure the science was accurate but simple enough for non-specialists to understand. When most species face mortal danger, their brain chemistry changes. They experience what humans call panic. This makes them stronger and faster for a short time, but it also makes them unable to think clearly. They can only run or fight blindly. Jake paused and looked around the hall. Humans develop differently. When we face danger, part of our brain stays calm and analytical. We can be terrified and still think strategically. This is how our ancestors survived encounters with predators that should have killed them. An elderly representative from the Vegan Council spoke up. Are you saying that fear makes humans more dangerous? In a way, yes. Fear focuses our attention and makes us more aware of our surroundings. But we don't let fear control our actions. We use it as information. Jake demonstrated by having the lights in the hall dimmed suddenly. Most of the aliens showed obvious signs of alarm. Scales changing color, tentacles retracting, or energy fields activating. Jake remained completely calm. Right now, my heart rate has increased and my senses are more alert, he explained as the lights returned to normal. But I'm not panicking. I'm gathering information about the situation and deciding how to respond. High Scholar Morthek, who had become one of Jake's closest alien friends, added his own observations. We have studied human physiology extensively since the Shadow Maw incident. Humans have an unusual combination of traits that make them uniquely suited for dealing with dangerous situations. The holographic display showed comparative anatomy charts. Human hands can apply precise pressure while maintaining a strong grip. Human joints are flexible enough to absorb impact while staying functional. Human muscles can work for hours without failing completely. But most importantly, Jake continued, humans never give up. We have a saying on Earth, it's not the size of the dog in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the dog. A young representative from the Aldorian Republic looked confused. What is a dog? Jake smiled. A dog is a small Earth predator that was domesticated by humans thousands of years ago. The saying means that determination matters more than physical size. Dr. Emma Blake joined Jake on the stage. She had spent the last 6 months traveling between alien worlds, studying how different species approached problems that humans solved. Easily, the Galactic Council asked me to study what makes humans unique, she said. What I found surprised everyone, including myself. The display showed images from various alien worlds, research stations, military bases, and exploration outposts. Every species in the galaxy has developed advanced technology to solve the problems that humans solve with basic techniques. You use energy shields because you never learned to absorb and redirect physical force. You use long-range weapons because you never learned to fight up close. You use vehicles for everything because you never developed real endurance. Commander Vexahun, who had also become a regular visitor to human research stations, stood up. Are you suggesting that our technology has made us weak? Not weak, Dr. Blake replied. It's specialized. Your species became so good at using tools that you forgot how to use your bodies. Humans never had that luxury. We had to stay physically capable because our survival depended on it. Jake took over again. This brings me to why I'm really here today. The galaxy has many problems that can't be solved with technology alone. Dangerous worlds that need to be explored. Rescue missions in hostile environments. Research that requires someone to work directly with dangerous creatures. The display showed images from recent human-alien joint missions. In the past 6 months, human-alien teams had successfully studied creatures on 12 different worlds that had been considered too dangerous for normal research. Humans want to help, Jake said. But we want to do it as partners, not as weapons. We can teach you our techniques, and you can teach us your sciences. Together, we can accomplish things that neither of our species could do alone. Ambassador. Quintal rose from her seat. Her crystal body reflected the hall's lights, creating rainbow patterns on the walls. The Human Integration Project has already shown remarkable results. Human techniques have allowed our researchers to study phenomena that were previously impossible to approach safely. She activated her own display, showing footage from recent joint missions. Human team members were working directly with alien creatures while their alien partners used advanced technology to record and analyze everything. On the volcanic world of Pyros, human heat tolerance allowed direct study of the lava-dwelling organisms. On the ice world of Cryos, human endurance made possible the first successful trek to the polar research sites. On the storm world of Tempest, human balance and coordination allowed research teams to work in conditions that would have killed anyone else. Jake nodded. Every species has unique strengths. Humans have learned to work with our limitations and turn them into advantages. We can teach other species to do the same. A representative from the Centurion Alliance asked, "What do humans want in return for sharing these techniques?" "Knowledge," Jake said simply. "We want to learn about the universe. We want to explore new worlds and meet new species. We want to understand how life develops in different environments." Captain Morgan, who had been watching from the audience, felt proud of how Jake was representing humanity. He wasn't boasting about human superiority. He was offering partnership and cooperation. "The galaxy is a big place," Jake continued. "There's room for everyone, and there are challenges that will require all of our different strengths working together." The vote was unanimous. Every species in the Galactic Federation agreed to support the Human Integration Project. Humans would be given full membership in the galactic community with the right to establish colonies, conduct research, and participate in exploration missions, but more importantly, they would share their knowledge freely with any species willing to learn. As the assembly ended, Jake found himself surrounded by representatives from dozens of worlds, all eager to establish exchange programs with humanity. Some wanted to learn human combat techniques. Others were interested in human endurance training. A few wanted to study human psychology and stress management. Zektar approached Jake as the crowd began to thin out. "My friend, do you realize what you have accomplished? You have changed the entire galaxy's understanding of what is possible." Jake shrugged. "I just did what any human would do. I didn't give up." That, Zektar said, is exactly what makes your species so remarkable. 2 years later, Jake stood on the observation deck of the first joint human-alien research station, watching mixed crews work together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species. Human persistence combined with alien technology was opening up new frontiers of knowledge. Dr. Voss joined him at the window. She now led the station's biological research division, working with scientists from 15 different species. Any regrets about that day on Zarian 7? She asked. Jake watched a human instructor teaching a class of young alien students how to climb using only their natural abilities. Nearby, human students were learning advanced physics from a Vrex professor. No regrets, he said. The galaxy is a better place when everyone works together. In the distance, a ship was departing for a new mission to study dangerous creatures on an unexplored world. The crew was half human, half alien.